One of the really important elements to the discussion over the legitimacy of AI art is the matter of copyright. More specifically, the copyright protection that AI art has once it's made. This is moving on from the accusation that the AI generators themselves, specifically the models that were trained off of images to produce these results, breached people's copyright in utilizing those images. I've already addressed that. There's videos on this channel addressing it. When I look at it, like really unpack and open up and see what the AI is doing to, train the models off of these images, I cannot reach any other conclusion apart from this is very clearly a fair use application of copyrighted works. And so I've addressed that, and I want to actually talk about the copyright of the AI works themselves, because they claim that machines can't own copyright. And one of the worst false equivalences I've seen is applied to this, and they reference the court case where a monkey took a picture with a camera. And there was a court case to try and give the monkey the copyright, and the result of that court case was only humans can have copyright. Monkeys can't, okay? People try and say that because the monkey didn't get copyright, the AI programs, can't, well, no AI image can attain copyright, but the false equivalence is huge here. Because in the analogy, the comparison to the monkey, the AI image generator is not the monkey in this comparison, and people are always trying to equate it to the monkey. No. It's the camera, okay? If a monkey went to my computer, grabbed a mouse, clicked generate on an AI image, the monkey will never be able to own copyright on that image, okay? The comparison is the entity that has caused the creation of the artwork. In one case, it's the monkey. In the AI case, it's a human. And that case established that only humans can own copyright. This is a human causing the creation of this artwork using technology to do it. The camera was the piece of technology creating the photo. In this instance, it's an AI image generator. And so that comparison is not going to hold up in court at all. Okay, they would need to try and justify it in other ways. And what's being currently debated in the courts is what's actually, who is creating it. And people falsely cite certain things that have already kind of been said. Like there is a court case that someone was actually trying to get the copyright ownership of the AI image to the computer or the AI generator itself. And that failed. And then people have latched onto that saying, see, AI images can't be copyrighted. No, they were trying to get the computer to own the copyright. It's not a human. Of course, non-humans can't own copyright under law that is made to be applied to humans. All right. So just like the monkey case, that one failed. That does not mean AI images cannot be copyrighted. All right. Already, okay, there is plenty of defense that you can apply legally to have copyright protection on AI works, like has been acknowledged. One of the things that's been acknowledged is the amount of human input required to make the image. And if you can show that there is human input that created the image, they're already acknowledging, okay, this is probably AI. By the way, the US Copyright Office doesn't grant copyright. People are thinking that because the US copyright turned down granting copyright, it does not grant, registering copyright. There's a difference between granting copyright and registering copyright. The US Copyright Office registers copyright, doesn't grant it. The registration happens as a kind of legal procedure that enables court cases to be tracked and processed and stuff like that. All right. And so that's why under US copyright law, you need to register a copyright to then, defend it in the court and everything. But that does, no. Copyright is inherently granted to any creation made by a human upon its creation. We don't have a copyright office here in Australia. It is granted flat to anything. And again, even when the Copyright Office denies the registration of copyright, if that was flat the end of the story, they wouldn't be able to take it to court. But because people can absolutely leverage their legal right to say, no, I have copyright on this, that's why it's still going to court. All right? And the results of the court cases are going to cause the US Copyright Office to conform to the results of these court cases. And There's a chance that they might change copyright as it's currently kind of defined to not include AI works. I highly believe that's not going to be the case. You know why? Large corporations want to use AI. Like Disney, you think Disney is not going to make sure they have copyright over the AI-produced works that they make? There's no chance that AI images are not going to have full copyright protection into the future. And seriously, if anyone actually believes that AI art cannot be copyrighted, I challenge them to go and plagiarize Marvel's AI-generated Secret Invasion intro, which was made with AI tools. Re-upload the whole thing to YouTube and see if it won't get pinged for copyright infringement. And if you're so confident that it can't be copyrighted, go and take them to court about it. If you're in the right, you could potentially countersue for a lot of money. But the thing is, you wouldn't be in the right for a very significant point that I'm going to mention later in the video. And then there's the fact of acknowledging the requirement of human input for copyright to be had. Already, there is so many ways to have additional and greater human input in making art while using AI tools. This is why the term AI art is a little misleading, where it should actually be AI-assisted art. I make AI-assisted art, if we're going to be more strict with the definitions here, because in a lot of times, I'm inputting an image, like a drawing that I made, that I'm now enhancing with AI and using AI tools to either color, to make different styles, and to bring it into a final state, all right? And so, it's funny, we are getting caught up in the minutiae here, but I guess the minutiae is important because there is another part to this discussion which gives full copyright protection over AI works, even if, hypothetically, you couldn't copyright the individual work itself based on its own merits. But it is already very, strong to push forward copyright protection on AI works that have human input. And they say significant human input, but what is significant human input? If I'm providing the primary pose, design of the character, all right, the actual conception and everything in it, and the AI is taking this image from one state into a different style and everything like that, that is me providing most of what the AI is working with to reach the results. That's huge human input. I actually believe the prompt itself is easily enough human input to give copyright protection. I'll get to the one that kind of makes all this discussion relevant, but there's an additional one I'm going to slip right in the middle here, which is just a kind of logic that I don't think people are acknowledging either. It's the idea of image rights over something that you didn't create, all right? There's an artist that creates it, they own the copyright, but they can sell me the image rights to something. I didn't create it, okay? But now that, because they granted me, now I own those image rights. And there's an idea of finding something in the wilderness that as soon as a human claims ownership over it, you didn't create it, but you have the rights over it. Photography is this. I know there's a lot of intention behind photography and artistry that can apply it, but there's a lot of ones where you just point the camera and click. No effort. The amount of human input required was point and click. Okay? Less human input required than generating an image that requires a more sophisticated... Sometimes you can just say, picture of dragon, click. Okay, we're getting close to pretty similar levels, right? But look at the similarity of effort or human input that's being put into this. But because the person is now image, it's the camera making the image for them, right? They're pressing a button, but now I claim ownership over it, and they get all copyright over that image and rights for distribution, all those things and above, all right? And so imagine if you're walking along, and instead of taking a picture, you find an artwork in the wilderness. And this artwork, you would assume someone made it, but let's pretend, if you can go with me, it was spontaneously created out of the ether. Reality it popped into existence. No one created it, just existed, it was there, and you came along and found it. Because you found it, and there was no previous ownership claimant on it, you can claim ownership on it, and then it would be yours, and you would have all rights to that image completely. The ideas of finding certain things that you get to own what you find if there was no other claim on it beforehand is actually upheld in the law. And so if people wanted to try and argue that the humans have no input at all, the AI is just creating an artwork, I actually think an argument could be made that, okay then, the human, I'm saying human created the artwork, but if pretend the law will not acknowledge humans creating it. The human is just discovery. The AI created it, but the person who clicked generate is technically the person that then first discovers the image as a human and can claim ownership over it because there's no previous claim on that image. And by claiming ownership of that image, which we already acknowledge that you can claim ownership of things that don't have previous claim on them, they would then have all the rights to the distribution and how that image is used. I think that's actually another argument that could be proposed legally to give full rights and control over images made by AI. But that's in the extreme where you would even try and argue that the human didn't make it. I actually think, the human absolutely is the one making the image. They're the one clicking, being the cause of creation. The analogy that I used to take this through that I think is apt. There is a type of art that people make, and I've seen it, right, where they hang like a pen or something on a piece of string. It's like on a pendulum, and they have the image on a piece of paper, and then they simply push the pendulum to swing, and as it swings, it draws, okay? Who's really creating the image? All they did was push the pendulum, and then the system runs according to the way that it was set up, and it results in an image. And then the person that made the initial push, they're considered the creator of that image, they own it, and they do, and they have all rights over it. People might say, this is a false equivalence because they're the ones who set up the mechanics to have the pendulum on the string, and they're the ones that put it in the right way and push in the right way so it swings in the right way to get the pattern they want. That's so analogous to AI art generation. All that set up, okay, humans made these generating models. All right, they didn't appear out of the ether. AI art generating technology was made by humans, okay? And then the way that it's set up to guide a almost automative kind of process to get a result, the person does that with the prompt. That's their guiding the string and pushing it in the right way. And sometimes it doesn't get the results they want, so they have to readjust and try again. But then the process happens automatically. Yet there are so many equivalents where we grant and acknowledge it's still the human made it because it wouldn't have existed without them causing it to exist, even though it's a mostly automated process. But with AI, suddenly they want to, there's a complete, no, this is different, when it actually is really equivalent. And that's another argument that I think is going to acknowledge and justify the truth. That is, this is the person creating this, all right? This is not a human hiring an artist and being a commissioner, all right? And to make any corrections or adjust that, it's the person who is working the AI that is making this manually, all right? It is not a commissioned artist who can make corrections for themselves as they go and stuff like that. But also on that kind of commission analogy, okay, I believe directors of films are artists, and they're usually credited as the primary creators of the film, yet were they the ones acting in the film, doing all the manual work, creating the props and everything like that? They're commissioning a lot of other people to structure their artistic vision to achieve what they want to be seen and depicted, all right? And so directing is an art form. Film directing is an art form. They're an artist, and that's an interesting analogy there. But with AI art, it actually requires more direct, manual work to get some of the best results. Sometimes you have to actually go in there, do digital illustration, especially if it's based off of one of your own drawings and things like that. That requires, and that's not someone else, that's the person doing it themselves, not a commissioned artist, okay? And so, like the commissioned art analogy would only be accurate if you actually had to grab the hand of the commissioned artist at times and do things manually because they were incapable of doing it or understanding your intent, okay? And even then with the commissioned analogy, if it's taking constant guidance, where to the point where you need to move the brush in this way, you want this, you want that, I want that, where to the point where you're literally getting the results based on your direct input, you're the primary artist behind the wheel, okay? AI, who's the primary artist behind the wheel, guiding, getting the results? It's the person using it. Because the AI can't do anything of itself. It cannot create images unless a person tells it to create. So I've been mentioning this is all mostly irrelevant for a really big fact that a lot of people trying to claim AI art can't be copyrighted and you can't use it in commercial and everything like that falls completely flat. So hypothetically, pretend that even if the copyright rules change and courts rule that AI images do not inherently hold copyright. All right? You can still have full protection over an AI image if you own the intellectual property the AI image is depicting. Let's take an example here, because there are multiple intellectual properties I own. One is my novel. My novel defines a world, a very specific world, with specific characters that look in specific ways, and that creates an intellectual property. I have the sole rights and ownership and copyright over the intellectual property of the Chronicles of Everfall franchise. This is really significant because part of copyright ownership, okay, is the copyright holder owns and has the sole discretion and right to make derivative works of that intellectual property. What is a derivative work? It's a work that is depicting based on something else that is existing. So when anyone, and myself included, draws a picture of this character here, see Dalen? That is a derivative work. Even if, hypothetically, copyright cannot be, they say you can't get copyright onto images, okay? If I make an AI image of an IP that has copyright, and this AI image is a derivative work of that IP, I own the sole right and discretion to distribute that derivative work. Doesn't matter if the individual image itself isn't copyrighted, it's derivative work of a copyrighted IP. What's really interesting about this, technically, this is absolute hard and fast copyright law that a lot of people don't actually know. Only the intellectual property owner has the technical right to create derivative works of their intellectual property. But that is the just nuts and bolts reality of copyright law that most people don't know. And fan art, all of it, unless you're doing it with a license from the IP owner, all fan art is absolutely categorically in breach of copyright law. Look this up. This is absolutely true, okay? If the copyright owners wanted to, they could sue people for making fan art of their intellectual property if the people making it don't have a license. And it goes further, if they sell that fan art, thankfully, most copyright owners understand that fan art actually promotes their own work, which is why copyright in general needs an overhaul. I think copyright goes too far in many instances. But if you want to actually look at the current laws of copyright, okay, there should be an allowance for fan art. I think there should be. But in terms of selling, okay, actually producing commercial art and then distributing it, only the copyright owner has a right to do that. And even if they produce it in mediums that supposedly can't be copyrighted because it is still an absolute derivative work of a copyrighted IP, they actually, just the very creation of that derivative work is breach of the copyright, so no one else has a right to make that derivative work. But distribution, that's the key. And so if someone was to make, if someone actually owns that IP and then makes works in a medium that supposedly can't get copyright because it's still a derivative work, all right? No one can then grab that and say, because it's not copyrighted, I'm going to sell it and you can't do anything about it. No, they don't have a right to distribute derivative works of intellectual property that you own. And so if someone, hypothetically, if copyright couldn't be granted to AI works and someone tried to steal an AI image of Dalen from my book that I made and then tried to sell it, all right, I can sue them, not because of the AI being copyrighted, if it will have copyright protection, I'm very confident of, right? But I could sue them for merely distributing a derivative work of an IP that is copyrighted. And so this actually gives huge protection and copyright, control over AI-generated images, even if the AI-generated image supposedly wasn't able to get copyright on its own merits, which already at the moment, if you show significant human input, absolutely it can, and that's only going to get strengthened as this goes through the courts. So that's where it is. So if anyone tries to actually say blatantly right now that AI works can't be copyrighted and I'm going to steal it or plagiarize and sell it on you, all that, no. And like, especially if they tried to do it on most of my images are of my intellectual property, but even say it was just a random artwork of a character or anything, and they tried to do it, the US Copyright Office doesn't grant copyright, they register it, okay? This is why people can take things to court already. And if people tried to steal my AI images that I produce, and then they would want to then sell it, and that is, and by the way, it's like, I, of course, am against plagiarization. People think that because I support AI art, I then am against, like, I support No, because I absolutely believe in intellectual property and ownership and artists owning what they make, but I also support fair use, and AI image generators do not plagiarize artist works when they are training off it. It's absolutely fair use, okay? And so, of course, I'm against plagiarization, people stealing my works, stealing my AI works included, okay? Because I actually do own the copyright over it. There is copyright on it, and it's just getting stronger. When I say, what is it? It's not, it's go through courts, significant human input, okay? And it's not all the same in other countries. I'm in Australia. We don't have a copyright office. Copyright is granted upon the creation. Of course, it's probably going to be greater definition in the law as it goes through courts and things go forward in the future. And I am very confident that's only going to get stronger. Thanks for watching.